Axel, good to see you again, my friend.
You too, Jason.
It's good to see you. So when we connected when you moved to Dallas, pretty recently, right, and through a mutual friend, and next thing you know, we're sitting down, great location here, and with a good conversation on deck. So one of the things, the first time we spoke, that really stood out in my mind was you coming to the United States.
Yeah.
Right? When you came to the United States, when you were how old?
I was 21, actually.
21.
When I first came.
From Cuba.
Yeah.
From Cuba. So you shared with us the story at the time, and it was this, transformation in, coming to a new country based on your profession, which is, producing and directing. So, can you walk us through that? What was that like, defecting, right? That story.
It was really scary at the time for me. But, the funny thing is that people think my story is good, but I always have to tell them my brother's story is even crazier.
Oh, yeah?
Because the way he had to do it, like, we'll have to tell you that story some other time.
Sure. We'll do it around the poker table one day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I went to Canada for this film festival, and then I ended up running away from the festival, like in the middle of the night. We just left. I left all my bags, all my stuff there, and we just started walking and trying to find a bus station that we could take a bus, like a local bus. And I was up in Quebec, and it was freezing cold, because it was March, actually just like 12 years ago last week. And we just went for it, and we got in a bus, went to the border, and when we actually made it to the border, we go through, and the guy that was on the booth, he's like, okay, where's your passport? And I give him my passport, and I'm like, I'm Cuban, I want to defect. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, where's your visa? And then I tried to get out of the car, and the guy's like, whoa, stay in the car. And I'm like, no, but like I'm speaking like my broken English, and he's like, stay in the fucking car. He got his gun out, and I was like, I was afraid. Like I was 21, I was with my ex-wife making that trip, and they put us into this little checkpoint at the border. This is New York State, not even the main place where people like go through from Canada to the US. So I was really scared. But something that is even scarier is if you stay in Cuba and you don't go for it and you don't take a chance, like what is your life going to be? So I think sometimes people are just afraid of making a transition, making a transformation in their life. And it's not until you're more afraid to stay where you are that you're going to have the balls to actually go through with the thing that you have to do. Sure. Because it's really difficult. Like it's difficult changing. And most people don't want to change. Yeah. They want the result of the change, but it's really hard for you to go through the actual steps and the things that you have to do. So for me in that moment, I was afraid, but at the same time, like I'm coming to America, dude. Yeah. Like this is the most beautiful, most exciting place to be in the world. And I get really upset when Americans don't feel like America is a good place. I'm like, are you crazy?
God bless, brother.
Like, I cannot believe that people would think that America is not a good place to be.
God bless, yep.
And listen, there are things to fix, but go and live in another third world country your entire life, and then you're going to learn to appreciate the things that we have here. Just the freedom at its most perfect, like, execution is found here in this country. So I'm really excited to be here. And I think that changed my life, that now I'm not afraid of changing. Like I can go into anything, and like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm not gonna have anyone like pointing guns at me anymore. So like, we could go and try anything.
Yeah. There's an old adage that says, "Eat the frog first." Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah.
Right, where it's always do the most difficult thing, and everything after that doesn't seem as difficult. So, to defect to another country seems pretty difficult. Yeah. So everything after that isn't so bad. So what was going through your mind? I have to know. You're looking for a bus station. You're just walking.
Yeah.
What is going through your mind at that point if you don't make it? Like what's going through your mind if you get to the border and you're turned away? What's going through, because that would, was it fear? Would you get in trouble? Like, what would that be like?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that could have happened. I honestly was not thinking about the bad outcome.
Yeah.
I was just focused on like the next small step, the next small step. There was a point where we got lost and like we didn't really know where to go. Like think about it. I'm 21. I'm coming from Cuba, where like it's a small city. All the cars are from the 50s. Like there's no internet. There's nothing. And then I'm in Canada, so I don't know how the bus system works, how the metro works, how the maps work, like how anything works. And this was back in 2012.
Got it.
So
got it. Yeah.
My previous phone, like I had one of those Blackberries with the little like ball in the middle, like, and I didn't.
Oh
even,
wow! Yeah, I
this
remember
is
those.
a long time ago, bro.
I remember those. Yeah.
So
that had the little trackball in the middle. Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from, and then into a country that is so advanced that it blows my mind in that moment. So I was very overwhelmed. I only had like $70.
$70.
Yeah. Oh. So, and then that was only the beginning of the thing, because then once I make it into the U.S., then I'm up in New York State, and I had a friend in Tennessee that I was hoping that I could go and stay with him. But then the way that like God or whatever like made everything happen, everything was like one step at a time. I was able to make it down to Tennessee safely. Then I was offered a full ride scholarship to go to and study film at a university.
No way.
Yeah,
okay.
and it's just through a network of people and friends and people that I knew back from church, friends that I had made throughout the years, and all of that developed into me having a shot at the dream of coming to America and like making something of myself.
No, for sure. I mean, it's something that we talk about a lot, which is faith, right? It's one of the F's of modern day Don, and just sometimes if you know you're doing the right thing, you're putting fear aside and you're just moving one step at a time, and you made it down to Tennessee. So that takes us then into what you do professionally, right? So professionally, producing and directing. So was that a childhood passion, and what sparked that passion to let you know you wanted to be in front or behind the camera? What do you prefer?
I prefer behind the camera.
Behind the camera.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more control, and it's fun to be in front of it. I think I started acting and doing theater, and I think that started that for me since I was like 4 years old. I was doing plays, and I was always good with all of that, and I enjoyed it. But then when I was a teenager, I started learning the skill of putting people together, and then you can act out through other people the things that you have in your head. And that is very addicting when you can actually control, and this sounds very like weird, but by being behind the camera, when you're directing, you can actually manifest and like bring to life something that was an idea that you had in your head. And now you're basically manipulating people to do the things, the emotions, and you're manipulating lighting and sound and set design and all of these things. You're almost like, it's the utmost creative endeavor you could go into, because you're actually creating something that was just like in your head. And that has been always like a passion of mine. So I started when I was like a teenager, learning how to work cameras and lighting and editing, and just learn by myself how to do all of these things. And those skills have allowed me to like go from like a kid coming from a third world country to then working with the biggest artists, working on the big TV sets, working on films. And like, it's funny now that I have like 10 years to look back and see how everything has progressed. And I'm definitely grateful that I get to work on those projects and that I get to do what I love doing. Because, you know, there's so many people out there that are maybe doing a job that they hate because they have to. And I have done plenty of jobs that I hate to make money and to provide. But I'm grateful every day that I get to work in a creative field and I get to mix, you know, business with art and creativity, media. And it's beautiful what's happening right now with social media and with people having the means of putting out whatever they want out into the world and finding the right people. Like, I love how that happens. Like right now, look at this example. Like, you have a few cameras here. You're basically doing the same thing that would have cost,
Oh.
like even 5 years ago, it would have cost you an arm and a leg to put out content with the distribution means that you can do it right now. And I think that is something that everyone has already realized.
Yep.
And now is the race to see who can do it better. And that's very interesting to me because I've been able to like produce some of the biggest shows in the world. We have traveled everywhere to film things, and seeing the power that media has in influencing people for good and for bad is amazing, is addicting, and I'm really excited to be able to like work in that field.
Right. So, talking social media, right? Talking content creation, and completely agree. The distribution model that existed 20 years ago, 50 years ago, right? When you think of just the few major movie networks and then network television, then for that to then metamorphosize into cable television. And now you have a channel just about sports. You have ESPN, you have MTV, and how that evolved, and now distribution channels in our pocket. And then a person, if they have the right talent, that can put out the right content within, whether it be entertaining, educational, inspirational, a lot of entertaining, right? But then they can create their own attention, create their own personal brand. So then that goes into personal brand. So how do you view personal brand changing, or people's personal brands? People's personal brands changing over the next 5 years. How important do you think it is? Is it more important? Is it less important? Do you think it's going away? Do you think people put too much attention on it? How do you view the idea of building a personal brand via the distribution channels?
I think it's extremely important. Now, if I were to tell you in the next 3-5 years, I'll be just saying BS, and I'm giving you like fake expectations, because the reality is that no one really knows what is going to happen beyond the next like 12 months. So now the importance is there. If you don't see the importance, you're just blind.
Agreed.
Now, I don't want to talk about that because that's very basic. I want to talk about the way that the winners are going to win in the next 12 months.
Okay.
So let's say that if you are putting together your personal brand, in this case, you're launching your podcast, you're doing all of this. There is a difference between you doing it willy-nilly and just hoping for the best. That could have worked 5 years ago. Now you're competing with people who have teams of 10, 15 people who are ninja assassins at that game. They have been studying data for like the last 7 years, and they know exactly what triggers to use to be able to get this content distributed out even more. Now, all of that is dependent on the algorithm and how it changes.
Okay.
Usually every 6 months, you're going to see a new rollout of different features. The big 5 social media companies, they're always trying to compete for attention and make the experience better for the user. So they're always going to be improving because they work in tech. They don't care about feelings. They don't care about, oh, we have this. In their playbook, iteration and getting the machine better is the game. So they are not afraid to hold on to anything. They will change any feature, and they will test any feature, and they will do all of this beta testing. So all these platforms are always rolling out different things. Now, I have worked on teams and been in charge of production for companies that's all we do. Creating the personal brand of this one individual to push out content at scale. That's all we do. So it's really funny to me. Sometimes I talk to people who are starting out, and they already had their ideas of how they want to go about it, and they want to do it this way and that way. And then I'm like, listen, like, we had a team of 10 people for 7 years. We were studying and analyzing all of this data, iterating, trying new content. We know what works, and I can give you a content strategy. So if you want a content strategy for your personal brand, this is what you do. You talk about money, you talk about mindset, you talk about fitness, and you talk about relationships. If you cover either one of those and you put enough content into one of those buckets, you're going to build a foundation to build a personal brand, and then you can pivot that to almost whatever you want within the means of the audience that you're building. So that goes with a system, and it goes somewhat like this. You have long-form content, medium-form content, short-form content. So a lot of people are obsessed now with the shorts because it's the quick thing that we see. I feel that it's just temporary. Like you get a little fix, but people are not really investing deep into who you are and what you're about.
Okay.
But that is 100% necessary. So you need that as the top of the funnel to then get into the depth of the relationship with content that you can create with people. So I would do it the opposite way, and which is something that you're trying out now. Go and do long form.
Long form, yeah.
Because out of long form, you can do medium form, and out of medium form, you can do short form. So stop being obsessed with all the TikTok style clips that you can do to promote your business. Build something that lasts a bit longer. Because then when you look at the top podcasts, the top personalities, all of them have long form podcasts.
Yep.
They do some short, but the bulk of it comes from the long form. And what happens is that it takes the longest to build, is the most expensive, so your entry is harder, so you can win if you just stay doing it longer. And then eventually what happens is people will start clipping your own long form into little clips and shorts, and then the audience is going to end up doing the work for you instead of you having to grind and make all of this TikTok style videos. So I think that is the shift that I've been able to experience with the work that I have done. And I think that is where things are going to pivot in the next 12 months. So it's going to be less focused on short form and more focused into long form. And some people might say I'm crazy, but trust me, I've seen the data, and it just works.
Yeah. Well, listen, if we're not willing to evolve, we're just going to die anyway, right? So going from the long form to short form, mid form, vlogging. Remember vlogging back in the day? Where you look at some of the guys that have been around a long time, your Gary Vee, or creating that kind of content, or even like a Patrick Bet-David, when he was making his 15-minute videos on entrepreneurship, at first everyone's looking at him thinking that they're too long. Now that's only mid-form content, right? So now that's considered mid-form, but just like you said, it's the years and years and years that they have to put in to really be able to build that foundation. So one of the words you said before is money, right? So let's talk money. Let's talk the money part of the media side of things, the media, producing, directing. What's been your transition from defecting from Cuba, going to film school, being involved behind the scenes, maybe starting as a production assistant, moving lighting around, moving your way up, getting into all of the, you know, the washing the dishes, so to speak, right? We've all swept floors. If there's anyone that you've met that's never swept a floor before, you know, that could be something to consider, right? We all have had positions where we've swept the floor, metaphorically and probably literally. So how do you see, where do you see the direction of the money side of the media business where you are from the producing and the directing environment?
Yeah, so when you study all the major studios, the thing that actually made them the most money was distribution. Now, everyone thinks that the money is in the content creation and the production, but in reality it's the opposite. The actual money is in the distribution of the content, especially if someone else is doing that production for you. And I think the shift has already happened. And now when you look at ABC, NBC, CBS, yeah, they're amazing companies, but YouTube is way bigger than they are. And YouTube doesn't make any content. We make content that goes on YouTube. So YouTube is taking 30% of all the ad dollars that are spent on the platform. The 70% is going to the content production, but the content to make it, like, it's a grind. Like right now you have how many people were here, how many cameras, how much money, everything that you're doing right now. So let's say that for me as a producer, I did the whole thing of like everything that you mentioned before. I made my own film. So I remember my second feature film, when I finished it, and I was able to put it on Apple TV, and I get the call from the
you put it directly to Apple TV?
Yeah, it's on Apple TV. It's on all the major platforms. So I got a distribution deal. Like the film went through all the technical thing, all the hoops you have to jump through. So by the time my movie, from the moment I started to the moment that it hit Apple TV, that I could like search it on my Apple TV app, and it was there and I got emotional, it was about 2 years.
Wow.
Now, from that entire process, the distribution company gets paid first, put the last money in, and gets the first money out. So I got massively screwed by making my film, taking all the risk, looking for the investors, putting my own money, my own sweat and tears, my time, my creativity, all my connections, all the endurance of 2 years making that film. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I'm getting like 30, 40 cents on the dollar. And then Apple as the platform, they're getting a 30% cut. And then the distribution company is taking another 30% cut. So who is doing it, when you talk about business, who is doing it better? The guys making the thing, or the guys just at the end just showing it?
Yeah.
So that's a pivot that for me was hard to like grasp, because I'm a filmmaker. Like I love making the thing. But then when I go into business and I start learning all of these things, I realize, hey, the money's in the distribution. So I think that's where the big players are going to win if they go into distribution. And once you win in distribution, then you have the funds to go back into content producing. And when you look at Netflix, they started doing
They started making their own movies. Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
But Netflix has been around. How long was Netflix?
How long? What have they been around? 20 years? 20?
Like 25.
25? Yeah.
But when
late 90s.
But when you think of Netflix as what we know it now,
Yeah.
you say, in the last 5 years they have been relevant.
Yeah.
Dude, they have been distributing things for like.
Well, back when it was DVDs.
Yes.
When they would mail you a DVD and you'd have to mail it back.
Yes. So that's where the shift is going, and that's where I'm going to position myself to find ways to distribute content.
To be in the distribution game.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. And then, one of the other things that we were talking about. Oh, here's something I was thinking is, as you were saying that, and we're talking through some of our early jobs. What was your first? This is something that we always talk about. What was your first job? I'll share mine also. But what was your first job?
Like when I had like a payroll and that kind of stuff.
No, I mean like in Cuba.
In Cuba,
Do you say your parents were doctors?
Yes.
Your parents were doctors.
Yeah, but I used to go out with my dad when I was like 5 to sell like candy on the streets.
Okay.
We sold avocados, yogurt, like all kinds of stuff.
Would you set up where the cruise ships would come in, or would just be in the
No,
neighborhood?
dude, in the neighborhood.
Just in the neighborhood.
Yeah, my dad used to take peanuts.
And he was a doctor.
Yeah.
He was an MD.
Yeah.
So he would take peanuts. What?
Take peanuts, you grind them, and you throw sugar as you're grinding the peanuts.
Okay.
So this paste is going to come out that is grounded peanuts with sugar.
With the sugar.
Then you, like with a roller, you make it flat.
Yeah.
Then you cut it into little strips. Then you fold it into paper. Then you have maní molido.
Maní molido.
Maní molido.
Okay.
So then you go out and you sell those for like $3.
Uh-huh.
So my dad and I used to make those, and I was a little kid. And I used to like eat a little bit of the peanut and then roll it and then go out on the streets with my dad to sell it. I learned my work ethic from my dad.
I was just about to say, what was the biggest thing you learned from that job? Or just in general, or your first experience working? His work ethic, right? Because here's someone that's an MD.
Yeah, my dad is my hero, man.
Yeah?
My dad, and he's my stepdad. Like, he's my stepdad, and he raised me as his own. And he did anything that he had to do. That man did everything for me. And I learned everything from him. I remember one time, Jason, like, I had no shoes. And my dad took a piece of, like, the welders, when they have that thing to keep it from getting burned, he took that and he cut it with a piece of a car tire, and by hand he handmade shoes for me. And I remember I was 5, and I learned everything from him. And I owe him who I am, what I have been able to accomplish. And every time I'm like upset about things not going my way and whatever, I think about him, because he's still in Cuba and he's still working and grinding, and I haven't been able to bring him out here yet. Mm-hmm. But that's my biggest motivation, is to do that. So that's why my brother and I are always working to make that happen, and I'm going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. So every time I'm like upset and whatever, it's like I'm a Cuban kid driving around in a Tesla. Like I'm good,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, you're good.
it's
Right,
all
right,
because
right.
of my dad.
That's right.
To be honest,
Yeah, yeah. Well, what would you say are what were some of the biggest things that he taught you?
he always paid attention to all the details, and I'm not great at that. So that's something that I sort of learned from him.
Okay.
And the other thing is that your word and what you say that you're gonna do matters, and you have to do it. So he was big on that,
Yeah.
and just working, just get things done,
Yeah.
figure things out.
Yeah.
And he used to do everything. Like he would figure out how to fix electrical problems, mechanical problems. He would fix anything,
Yeah.
and nothing was beneath him. And he was always like,
Yeah, man, that's a great story. That's a great story. And so you did mention your brother,
yeah,
right? So he's here now. One day we'll get to hear his story of defecting.
yeah,
I want to hear that. Maybe we'll, do that over, a game of poker or something,
Yeah.
right? But you work with him now.
Yeah.
What's that like? I mean, how do you and do you have very similar personalities? Like, what's it like working with your brother? Obviously, here in what we're creating with Modern Day Don is about that strong masculine character of what the character should be. That's why you sharing the story about your dad is so important. Dad or stepdad, right? Like with your stepdad, it's important because it's about what characteristics and what does it mean to be a man in today's society. Because times change. Unfortunately, times change, but at the same time, there's characteristics that are timeless, right? And what are those characteristics that we want to harness? That's why when I hear these characteristics of your stepfather, it's like, that word is your bond, 100%. 100%. My word is my bond, no matter what. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, regardless. So I have a lot of respect for you, a lot of respect for your stepfather. So with your brother, with you two working together, what's that like?
my brother is completely different from me,
Yeah.
but we're both committed to the same goals, and we shared the same history of our family of growing up with nothing and coming to America. So I enjoy working with him so much. There is no egos involved. There is no doubts. It's like my brother will do anything for me, and I will do everything for him.
Right.
So I feel like I have a huge advantage over every other person trying to compete with us
Completely.
because it's two of us. So whatever it is that we're doing is two.
And it's the ultimate trust.
Yeah.
I gotta
Like,
think you
there's-
trust your brother more than anyone in the world.
Yeah.
I have a brother as well.
Yeah.
One person I trust more than anyone in the
Yeah.
world.
We have
Yeah.
all of our monies together. We live in the same building. He just came like a year ago from Cuba. So for like the last year, we were living literally in the same house, doing everything together,
Yep.
training together, working together. Like everything that I do, I run it by him. Everything that he does, he's running it by me. So like having that trust, and I know that anything that goes wrong, it's two of us to fight against it. And I'm the older one. I worry about everything. I'm always like thinking and like strategy and like how do we do this and that. He's the opposite. He's more like in the moment type of guy. He's not fazed by anything, and he balances me out.
Got it.
And I think if you have brothers and you are a guy, like you have to work with your brother. It's so like crazy not to be doing things with your brother.
Yep.
And I think part of it is the culture, part of it is society and how we might want to do different things, and like maybe we're competing with our brother. I think there is a good amount of healthy competition that you should have, but in a good way, where you're trying to compete to see who can do like physical things better, or like, but always keep it knowing that that's your guy. Like that's, you have to work with your brother. You have to find a way to make peace with your brother. And maybe someone is watching and they hate their brother. Maybe they have different ages, maybe like whatever happened and you're not cool with your brother or you're not close with your brother.
Yep.
I think is something that you have to be intentional about. You have to understand that that could be your biggest asset if you pour into that relationship and then give it priority. And it's easier said than done. And there are moments that are going to come where you're going to be tested. There are times where maybe your girlfriend doesn't like your brother. Then what are you going to do? Or maybe your job is different from what your brother is doing. What are you going to do? So I think you have to be intentional and you have to prioritize that relationship. Because when you think about every other relationship that you have, friends, women, job relationships, like anything.
Yep.
Who is the person that came from the same parents?
That's it.
And shares that, and it will never go away? It's your brother. You're gonna get divorced, you're gonna get fired, you're gonna break business relationships, you're gonna have countless girlfriends, like you're gonna have countless friends, but you only get the brothers that you have. So that for me has been a huge thing, and I'm grateful for everything that my brother is always doing to help us.
Completely.
And it's been amazing.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, it makes total sense. I have a brother as well, and you know what? It's that one person in the world you know you can turn to no matter what. So, and a lot of good points. One of the things you mentioned there was fitness side, training with your brother.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about some training stuff, right? Krav Maga, right? Muay Thai, boxing, whatever it might be. I mean, it's a big part of, the modern day Don community because again, that's all within the same brotherhood almost.
Yeah.
For those that might not have the blood brothers, and staying the closest to your blood brothers, but at the same time realizing that you also need to have a wolf pack, so to speak.
100%.
Right?
So
You need to have that pack of wolves because there's no way we can do this alone.
Yeah. So I discovered that about three years ago. So I went through a divorce and I moved in with one of my friends. This is when my brother was still in Cuba. So I moved in with my friend Abraham, and then in that same building we meet Reginald, and now we are brothers.
There you go.
And we call ourselves the Chosen Brothers.
The Chosen Brothers?
Chosen, because
we
chose
the
each other.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So we started training together because Reggie is this assassin, black belt in Krav Maga. He's like crazy good at that. So he started training us. And through that training, what you were saying about the brotherhood, 100%, you will not have brotherhood unless you go through hardship with
together.
Other men.
And you have to do it with them.
Yeah.
And when you do it with them, you have that shared experience.
You do.
100%.
It's the same as the army.
100%. Completely.
It's same as the army.
Completely.
So I was able to find that now later in life, the same way that when I went through the army in Cuba, I made some friends there that were still close. So
because you went through that hardship together.
100%. It's a primal thing that we all have. So building that tribe of people, it works. It's like in our biology. So you can't go against it. You might as well lean into it. So if you can find, and if you don't have it, like right now for the guys watching, it might be hard. They might be living in a city where they don't have good friends, or the friends that they have around them are just assigned by you because these are the kids that you saw in school or whatever. Get the hell out of that circle if it's not helping you, and only spend time with 2 or 3 guys that are pushing you, that you're doing hard things together, whether in business, in life, or in fitness. And training is one of those things. I used to be, like when I came to America, I was 140 pounds and I'm 6'3". I was skinny and weak. And I always saw myself as the smart kid because I didn't have good physical athleticism skills. I had good brains. I diverted my attention and I built my identity around being smart rather than being strong.
Got it.
But then a shift happened after I came to America, after in the university, like they teach you classes about like biology and like nutrition and all this. So I started changing that, but it wasn't until I actually was around other men that were also training that made the breakthrough of me realizing I have to do this. And then you might think of yourself as weak, but once you decide, I'm going to become strong, it starts with your mind first, and then you should have to put in the work and make your weakness leave your body. So you have to just force yourself to go and do the thing that you don't want to do, and it's gonna be hard.
That's it.
And it's gonna hurt, and it still hurts. Like, it doesn't matter, like, now I'm like in my mid-30s, and it's still, every time I go to the gym, it hurts. The same that 10 years ago. So you have to do it just because you have to do it. What else? Are you gonna be a weak-ass dude? No. Like, you should not accept that, and you need to make it part of your identity. The moment I did that, everything started changing.
You nailed it.
And now that's who I am.
Listen, you nailed it, building out what that identity is and figuring out that, your physical capabilities can be a part of your identity if you decide that it is. So couldn't agree more, but always good to catch up, my friend.
For sure.
Until next time. See you.
Thank you. So this is where I need to know who's the editor.
All right, and you know how to play 9-ball?
I have no clue what I'm doing.
Okay, so on the table, you only have the balls 1 through 9.
Okay.
So now the idea of this version of the pool game is you have to get the numbers in order. So it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Whoever gets 9 in wins.
Okay.
Now, where it gets fun is that you can combination into the 9 and win the game quickly.
How so?
So you have to hit the lowest number on the ball at any time.
Okay.
So now I have to hit the 1 no matter what.
Okay.
If I don't hit the 1, it's a scratch.
But if you get 9 in, you win?
If I hit the 1 into the 9, you win.
But the first one you hit
game's
is
over. Right.
Okay.
But you have to hit the lowest ball first. If you
Okay.
don't hit the lowest ball first, then it's an instant scratch. Scratch, you can put the ball wherever you want.
Okay.
So now, if we're the number 2, I have to go 2 into 9, you could win, and you just keep playing multiple games.
Okay.
This is way more fun than stripes and solids.
Okay.
Because the game just goes too long.
Goes faster.
So here, what you can do is you can just do a quick game. That was a quality shot. And then what we do is, if we have a shot that no one gets the ball in within 3 shots, we just put it in the pocket. All right.
So then you get.
So now I get to put the ball wherever I want because you
I
hit the 1
2.
first.
Yeah.
Now, if I won into
You
9,
hit
you're
9
done.
and you win.
You're done.
Okay,
That's
and
it.
then you take my money.
That's it.
But that's a 6. No?
No, that's a
or
9.
the little smiley thing in the
Yep.
bottom?
Yeah,
Okay.
here's a
So
6.
that's the 6.
And so that's
Okay.
the 9. So if I get this in,
You win.
that's it. The game's over. You owe me $50.
Okay. Have you ever acted? Ah, shit. I needed to ask you. I needed to ask you first and make you feel nervous.
First time around.
You won.
I said I'm a ringer. What do you want me to tell you? I had to take all your money. All right. Let's do one more quick one.
Yeah, this is bad for the podcast, guys. It's too quick.
I know. All right, the 9 has to go in the middle, but at the very least, so what you want to do is you want to put them in order. You want to put the 1 at the front, the 9 in the middle.
What was the thing that you wanted to get into at the end of the podcast?
Fitness.
Is it something you could talk about right now?
Yep.
There you go.
You want a break?
Yep. All right. So one of the things that we were talking about was training.
Yeah.
You said when you had a couple of your Trojan brothers, you said training, right? Where from the physical fitness side of things and what that's like to go through hardships with your brothers. So what are you training on now? What do you train with them?
So right now, since I moved to Texas, I haven't trained with them anymore. So we're just doing regular gym training. But there is a difference.
I accidentally just won the game. I didn't mean to break the 9 right into the pocket, but
Okay,
it
so
happened. All right, let's take the 9 out. Let's just keep playing.
so we keep hitting.
Yeah, look at the 9 right there. But you got to hit the
Okay.
1.
I hit the 1.
Sorry, you were saying so you were training in Tennessee?
No, in LA,
Okay.
So-
right, because you were in LA for how many years?
4.
Okay.
So the thing with that type of training is you basically you are weak, like just like everyone is weak. Like no one is born like, oh, I'm so strong. Everyone
at like Krav?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with Krav, you're learning how to like get hit. You're getting comfortable with like when people like if someone is grabbing you.
Different angles.
More the aggression.
Yeah.
So getting used to being like punch, hit, scratch, and you're learning how to quickly end a fight.
Yeah.
So like everyone's doing like the boxing training, all that's BS. Like you're not going to box with someone. Like if you and I get into a fight, like right now, if we're getting into an argument, like my hand being here is bad for you.
Oh, terrible.
So you start learning how not to let people into your space. And if there's a situation, you know how to like defend yourself and get out.
Yep.
That was one of the biggest things that Reginald was always teaching us. It's like, you're not looking for a fight. You're looking to end the fight and leave because you don't want any trouble.
Makes sense.
And dude, there is a difference. You feel different around other men when you know how to fight.
Yep.
And then you feel that there is not as many chances for you to get into a fight because you're going to know how to handle yourself. You're going to see.
There's a certain energy that people put out when they
Yeah.
want to fight.
And
'Cause
people don't
at
mess
that point,
with
they're
you.
not right, but and there's something about it. I think it's the two is the blue over there. You know, it's just something about when you know how to fight. You don't want to fight.
Going left-handed here.
That's it. Oh. All right, so we're talking about the first job before. What was the first job when you got to the U.S. though?
First job when I got to the U.S.
What,
In
was
the
it
U-
in film or was it?
Yeah, in the U.S. was easy because I just started making videos. So my first video that I made, I saw this contest.
Scratch.
I see this contest on YouTube for Kia Motors. And I'm like, I'm gonna make
car
the
company?
video for the car company.
Okay.
So my first video in America, I made a music video for a Kia competition,
Okay.
and I won the whole thing, and I got a free
Yeah.
car.
You got a car?
They gave me a Kia. My
No shit.
first ever video in America,
Your first video in America and you won a car.
brand new, like one of those Kia Souls that they had the commercials with the hamsters and stuff. I got one of those.
You still have it?
I lost it.
You lost it?
In
How do
LA.
you lose a car?
I have my other
Do you
car.
have a gambling problem that we need to know about?
I had like 2 or 3 different cars, and I had the Kia parked outside of a building in LA. In LA, like you can be homeless and live outside,
Yeah.
and you're good.
Yeah.
If you park your car over 72 hours in a certain place, they take the car.
Uh-huh.
So I was like moving from one building to another,
Yeah.
and I wasn't really using that car, so I forgot that I had it parked there.
That's the American dream. Oh, I forgot I had a car. Right. Uh-huh. All right, so then what?
So then they,
Oh, I just completely missed this. All right, so scratching. All right, so you leave the car there.
they took it. I didn't realize for like a month or two that the car was gone. And then they wanted all this money to give me the car back. They put it on auction. By the time I realized they had already sold the car, and like when I was about to move to Texas, I'm like checking on to see where the car was. And it's like, so
Wow.
gone.
All right, your shot. I think we're at
Number
3
3.
ball. Yep. Okay, we got a little competition now.
So what do you think is going to be the hardest thing with the podcast and the show and all that?
Just in general? The most challenging thing is the competition of the other content that's out there. I mean, you were saying before, right now we're competing with massive teams.
Yes,
Putting together that kind of content.
you are, but at the same time, you have to not see those people as competition.
Yeah.
And the sooner you can see them as collaborators and you find ways to make videos with them, and also find a way to make content that is similar to their content,
Yep, makes
because
sense.
it works different. Like the algorithm is not thinking you or you, as the algorithm is thinking you are like this. So I want this plus this. So the more videos there are about podcasts about men trying to figure out their life, the better, because that audience is going to interject with this audience.
Right.
And think about it, you don't watch one single show.
No.
You don't listen to one single person.
Yep.
You have like a group, an audience of, I like this, and I like this guy, and I like this guy over here. So for example, if you start now, you launch your podcast, and you start going on 50 other podcasts, that is going to help you.
Yep.
Not because you're competing, but because you are mixing audiences and connecting one audience with the other.
Yeah. No, listen, it makes sense. I think you're up here with the number 4. And look, all right. You said you didn't play much.
Well, I don't know the rules of the game, but I know how to hit.
All right. But that's the number 9 you just hit.
Oh, I thought it was the 6.
Nah, 6
This
is
is
the green
confusing for me.
6 is the green one. So, that's one of the things that, that we're thinking about right now, as far as, just like you were saying, the collaborating. That's why some of the things that we talk about, where you say, look, what is Modern Day Don? And the thing that we always say is, look, Modern Day Don is a channel where we have conversations, collaborations, and adventures, right, to guide men to and through modern day manhood. So the fact that you just said collaborations makes us feel like we're on the right track, right? Because there's a lot of great people out there that are doing the same things. Now, I'm very competitive by nature. You might be the same, but you got to figure out who you're competing with, right?
Yes.
Patrick Bet-David has a great book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely.
That book
Right?
is so good.
That's a
dude.
great book.
Yeah, the thing is that you shouldn't see it as competition or enemies. They're actually vehicles. I think we're trying to think about algorithm the same way that a human brains work, but an algorithm doesn't work like that. So a lot of things are going to be counterintuitive. So instead of thinking, I'm competing with this guy, don't think that way. If you want to win, you need to think about, how can I have that guy feed into my pool of my audience. So the audience is the same, you're just giving better content, but you want to do it in connection to those people, not in isolation to those people.
Right.
And you don't want to be all that different, you don't want to be all that unique. And that sounds weird, that sounds very counterintuitive. But you're trying to feed the algorithm something that seems similar to the audience and the videos that they have already served.
That makes sense.
That way the algorithm knows where to put you.
Yep. All right, let's see if we can clean this up right now. You keep thinking that's the 6, I think.
I do. I just hit it again thinking that it was the one that I was supposed to hit.
I don't think I got anything with this guy. Should I go behind the back? Let's go
Let's
crazy
see it.
behind the back. All right, set you up nice. 2 shots left. So what spots you been to in Dallas yet? You been to any of the good spots? You been down to the Mexican?
Mexican, I went there the other night.
How was that?
It was very interesting. It feels like LA.
Uh-huh.
It has that LA vibe. So that place
Completely.
was interesting. Dallas is a very interesting city. It feels big enough to be like a nice city. Like, I don't feel like I'm in a small town. But at the same time, it feels like there's no people here.
Ooh.
It doesn't feel crowded like
Yeah.
LA or New York. So I do feel like there's a lot of potential, and it's a beautiful city as well. I'm honestly surprised in a good way.
Yeah.
That's an easy shot.
All right, let's see. miss it on purpose.
Good. So I was asking you,
I had to let the guest win.
have you acted before?
No.
Man, you should have.
Why do you say that?
'Cause you're a handsome-looking guy.
Thank you, Axel.
We didn't get into the whole ladies talk.
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
we got to talk
podcast.
relationships.
Yeah.
Oh,
I bet you have some stories.
I got some stories. There's some wisdom that I picked up along the way. Yeah. There's definitely a little something there that I can definitely talk about. Let's see.
What do you think is the first thing you wish you knew about women? That now you know.
Oh,
that you
man.
wish you had known, like
That
when you were
is
a
such
teenager.
a good question. That's such a good question. The biggest thing that I wish I knew about women now, or that I wish I knew then, that I know now, is understanding female nature. And understanding that everything you and I and every man thinks about life and reality is completely different in the way a woman sees the world. That's it. It's completely 100% taking the time to study female nature. It is nothing, it's not an us versus them, it's a cat versus dog conversation. And we're dogs. You know what? We're loyal, we'll fight to the death. Everything to us makes sense. If we're happy to see you, you'll know it. If we're not happy to see you, you'll know it. Right? So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's slightly different for any of the cat owners that are watching this right now. Anyone that owns a cat is going to know that it's slightly different. So by far, the biggest thing that I wish I knew when I was younger was just taking the time to understand female nature. Not to decipher it, not to change it, to understand it. Because once you start to understand, you can't get on the Monopoly board and try and play the game of Monopoly like it's checkers. It's not the game.
Did you ever get your heart broken?
Did I ever get my heart broken? Yeah, we all have.
How was that? How were you able to get over it?
Part of it was siphoning that energy to other things, and siphoning that emotion to other things, because that's what it does. It creates emotion, it creates a fire in your belly, right? Everything is just emotion based, but that emotion needs to be the fuel in the tank for something else. So for me, it was all about using that fuel and putting it in the tank to where you want it to go. Because a lot of the way I view it is that sometimes those things that happen to us are fuel. So whenever anyone comes to me and says, well, this happened to me, I just say one word, fuel. They look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, fuel. What do you mean fuel? Fuel. Put it in the tank. Well, no, fuel. Put it in the tank. But what do you mean put it in the tank? Put it in the tank. Where are you going? Put it in the tank. You should be happy that just happened to you. Put it in the tank. You wouldn't be the man you are today if not for the fuel you had of growing up. It is what it is. Being at a place where you're having shoes made because you didn't have shoes. Right now, we got kids out there with 50 pairs and they're crying because they don't have the new Jordan retro release. Perspective. So a lot of it has to do with perspective and fuel. So we've all gone through that heartbreak. But the biggest thing for young men to really think about is study female nature. That's all it comes down to in SNL, right? So status, network, and looks plays a big part in dating and mating. But good to see you, my friend.
You beat my ass.
You know what?
I thought you were going to let
Next
me
time.
win.
Nah. Competition, healthy competition
I like
makes
it.
us stronger when we fight things together.
I like it.
Good to see you, brother.
You too.
Good to see you, man.